Hello, and welcome to a demo for a new Live 12 MIDI tool from Heaps of Bleeps. This tool is called Fractional Stretch, and as the name suggests, it allows you to stretch your MIDI out in a fractional way. This can help you generate polyrhythms, non-dyadic rhythms, polytempic music, and other forms of Zen rhythmic music. So right now it's on fraction mode at the top. This just gives you access to whole number fractions. So let's say you wanted to cut it in half. You go 1/2, and you can see it is squished to half the size. Just undo that really quick. There's also this decimal fraction, which just allows you to set the fraction with decimal numbers. It's pretty self-explanatory. Let's say you wanted to go 7.2/4. Let's stretch it. You can see what was 4/16 notes now stretches to 7.2/16 notes. So yeah, you can see it's 7.2 right there. That's a good way to keep track of what your stretch is going to do. The bottom one is the amount of beats that will get stretched into the top amount of beats. You might be thinking, oh, that's cool. I can just, do that with this. I don't need to buy your MIDI tool to do that. But this allows you to do like very precise things. It also anyone who's done stretching this way will know that, it's pretty easy to control when you have only 4 notes. But, if you're stretching 31 bars of MIDI, it can get very annoying to actually stretch it the amount you want. As someone who uses that kind of stretching a lot, I get very frustrated sometimes when I'm trying to do a precise stretch to get some kind of polyrhythm. So I made this instead. There is also this BPM shift mode, and this basically just allows you to work with multiple BPMs at the same time in one live project. This mode's pretty experimental, but like one example I could think of using this is, let's say you're doing some kind of like sound collage thing. You have one thing going at a set tempo and you want to keep that going. But then let's say you want to throw in a random break beat at like 160 BPM over that or something. You could then just stretch your MIDI to that BPM while maintaining your same BPM. I'm not sure if you can see at the top there, but my BPM is 72 in live right now. So I put that as my start BPM, and the end BPM is default at 120. Let's just see that. So that basically just stretched the MIDI to go as fast as it would play if it was at 120 BPM while keeping the same grid. It's kind of an experimental thing, but maybe you'll find a use for it. I don't know. I will show you an example of how you can use this in the third part of this demo video. And then the final mode is the decimal mode. Now this just allows you to stretch it with a decimal number. This is basically just like the built-in stretch with live, except for it just has a much wider range. Stretch all the way to 100 times or 0.01 times. Let's stretch it to 100. Yeah, now it takes up 25 measures. Let's go back, zoom all the way back in here on these notes. Then there's also this part at the bottom here, which is the stretch from parameter. By default, it's just going to stretch everything from 1/1, which is, 1/1 on the timeline here. But you can also set it to first note, which in this case would still be 1/1, but let's say you just wanted to stretch these ones. So yeah, it's at 1/2. Now they just stretch here. The first note that you selected will stay the same. Let's undo that. And then there's also last note, which is going to keep the end of your last note in the same place. So let's say you wanted to do this. Let's just do another half stretch. So yeah, it keeps that in the same place. And then there's also this custom. Let me just undo again. And this just allows you to pick a point to stretch from. So that can either be any of your notes, or it can be another note that you end up deleting just to save the place. So let's say I wanted to keep this third note in the same place. When I stretch, I'll hit pick. This is now set to 0.5. This number here is actually just the amount of beats. So it's half of one beat. You could also just set this by typing in, you could do 0.75, which would be the last beat here. Let's say the same, the beginning. But let's just pick this again. The pick is just easier to use because, the moment you're pretty far away from 1/1, this number can get pretty high and hard to remember. So once you pick it, it'll set that number, and now you stretch. Let's cut it in half. And as you can see, that third note stayed at the same place and all the other notes stretched around it. Let's do 7/2 again. Unfortunately, Live doesn't give me access to change the looping points, but it would be cool if they did. Maybe if they do, I will add that in the future. So yeah, that's a basic overview of the device. Thanks for watching this video, and stick around for parts 2 and 3.